My wife got an STD after a friend's house party, and my stepdaughter said, "I'm weak. If I truly love her, I should treat it." But I chose to divorce her, and my revenge was ruthless. Hello Reddit I+ here. This is going to be long. I never thought I would write something like this. But what happened still feels unreal. Maybe writing it all out is the only way to close this chapter of my life. I was married for 9 years. I raised a child who was not biologically mine from the age of 6. I paid for private school, braces, summer camps, therapy, and later college savings. I never once called her my stepdaughter in real life. She was just my kid. Or at least I thought so. It started with a phone call that did not make sense. My wife came home from a weekend house party at a mutual friend's place. I did not go because I had a work deadline, and honestly, loud gatherings were never my thing. She left Friday evening, came back Sunday afternoon, tired but cheerful. Too cheerful. 3 days later, she told me she needed to see a doctor. I asked why. She said it casually, almost bored. Just a checkup. The next evening, she sat across from me at the kitchen table, twisting a napkin between her fingers. She would not look me in the eye. "I tested positive for an STD," she said. I remember blinking, waiting for the punchline. There was none. I asked the obvious question. "How?" She shrugged. "Probably from a toilet seat. Or a towel. Those parties get messy." I laughed because the explanation was absurd. Then I realized she was serious. I had not been with anyone else. I had not been unfaithful. I knew my own medical history. This was not something that appeared out of thin air. I asked her what the doctor said. She said it's treatable. Antibiotics. Nothing major. I asked if she told the doctor she was married. She snapped back. "Why does that matter?" That was the moment the floor cracked beneath me. I confront here. I asked her directly if she cheated. She exploded. How dare I accuse her? How insecure I was. How men always jump to conclusions. She said I was making her illness about myself instead of supporting her. She told me she expected me to pay for the treatment, help her recover, and move on like adults. I told her I would get tested immediately. Her face went pale. "Why would you do that?" she asked. "Because if I have it too, then we talk about treatment. If I do not, then we talk about divorce." That word hit the room like broken glass. She stormed out of the kitchen and locked herself in the bedroom. The next morning my test came back negative. Completely clean. I sat in my car for a long time staring at the result on my phone. I felt stupid, betrayed, angry, but mostly tired. When I came home, she already knew. She had checked my email without asking. "You're overreacting," she said. "It doesn't mean anything." It meant everything. The hidden truth. That night, her daughter confronted me instead of her. She stood in the doorway of my home office, arms crossed, eyes full of contempt I had never seen before. "You're really going to divorce Mom over this?" she asked. I said calmly that cheating was not a small thing. She laughed. Actually laughed. "That's weak," she said. "Men forgive worse. Real men step up. You should just pay for her treatment and stop acting like a victim." Weak. The word burned more than the STD ever could have. I asked her who told her about it. She smirked. "Mom tells me everything." That is when the pieces started clicking together. Over the next week, I stopped arguing. I stopped explaining. I started listening. I checked bank statements. I checked old messages on a shared tablet she forgot to log out of. I checked dates. The party had not been a party. It was a gathering of people I did not know. A different friend group. A different life. And it was not the first time. There were hotel charges going back almost a year. Weekend trips she claimed were work conferences. Payments for medication I never questioned. She had been treating STDs quietly long before this one. And her daughter knew. Not just knew, but helped cover. She would stay with relatives during those weekends. She knew not to ask questions. I was not just betrayed by a spouse. I was funding a lie. At the end, I filed for divorce without another argument. No yelling, no threats, just papers. That is when panic set in. She cried, begged, promised therapy, swore it meant nothing. Said she only stayed because I was stable and safe. Her daughter switched tactics too. Suddenly, I was the only father she had ever known. Suddenly, she needed my support. Suddenly, she was scared. I did not change my mind. During mediation, my wife demanded I pay for her medical expenses, legal fees, and continue contributing to her daughter's education. She called it fairness. I called it entitlement, the reveal that flips everything. What they did not know was that I had already spoken to a lawyer months earlier when I first suspected something was off. I had documentation, proof of infidelity, proof of financial misuse, proof that marital funds were used to cover repeated affairs, and one more thing. A recorded conversation. The night her daughter called me weak, I had recorded it. Not secretly, the camera was visible. They just did not care. In that recording, my wife admitted she expected me to stay because I was too soft to leave. She laughed while saying it. That recording went straight to my lawyer. The divorce was not dramatic. It was efficient. She did not get alimony. She did not get reimbursement. She did not get to keep the house. And the most painful consequence came later. Her daughter lost her college funding. Not out of spite, but because the account was in my name alone, always had been. I walked away clean. Legally, financially, emotionally. Months later, I heard through mutual friends that the man from the party disappeared. Treatment costs piled up. Relationships collapsed. Reality hit hard. As for me, I learned something important. Being forgiving does not mean being foolish. Being calm does not mean being weak. And walking away from betrayal is not revenge. It is self-respect. That was my quiet justice. I thought filing for divorce would end it. I was wrong. The moment my wife realized tears and apologies no longer worked, she changed strategies. Overnight, she went from remorseful to calculating. She started calling non-stop. If I did not answer, she left long voice notes. Not apologies anymore. Venting, blaming, rewriting history. She said I abandoned her when she was sick. She said I ruined her daughter's future. She said I owed them for the years they spent with me. I stopped responding. That silence drove her crazy. Manipulation through emotion. She showed up unannounced one evening, standing outside my door like a stranger. She cried loudly enough for neighbors to hear. Said she had nowhere to go. Said the stress was killing her. Said if anything happened to her, it would be on my conscience. When that did not work, she shifted again. She accused me of being cold. She accused me of never loving them. She accused me of planning all of this just to punish her. I told her calmly that all communication needed to go through attorneys. That was the moment she realized she no longer had access to me, using the courts as a weapon. The legal threats came next. She filed motions demanding emergency spousal support. She demanded I resume paying medical expenses. She demanded continued financial responsibility for her daughter, even after the divorce. Her lawyer sent aggressive letters, full of dramatic language and moral guilt. My lawyer responded with facts. Every claim was met with documentation. Every accusation was met with timelines. Every emotional argument collapsed under evidence. When the judge reviewed the case, the tone shifted fast. Questions were asked she could not answer. Dates were brought up she could not explain. Expenses were traced back to hotel stays, and prescriptions tied directly to her affairs. The courtroom was quiet when the judge finally spoke. There would be no temporary support. There would be no reimbursement. There would be no obligation beyond the legal minimum. Her threats dissolved into paperwork. The last attempt. Her daughter reached out one final time. Not with anger this time, with fear. She said she felt abandoned. She said she never meant to hurt me. She said she was just repeating what she heard at home. I listened. I really did. Then I told her the truth. Love does not mean enabling lies. Family does not mean accepting disrespect. And loyalty cannot exist without honesty. I wished her well, and I let go. That conversation closed a door I had held open for too long. When everything fails. After that, the messages stopped. No more threats, no more guilt, no more demands. The court had spoken. The leverage was gone. The power they thought they had over me no longer existed. I heard later that my ex tried to tell people I changed, that money made me cruel, that I abandoned them when they needed me most. But the people who mattered knew the truth. I rebuilt my life without announcing it. New routines, new peace, no chaos. I learned that some people confuse kindness with weakness until they run into boundaries. And when manipulation fails, when courts fail, when threats fail, all that remains is the truth they tried to bury. Walking away was not just my escape. It was the moment I took my power back.